What's up guys, it's Kai here, and in this video I'm going to talk about emo deck building. In this video, let's get you up to speed on emo deck building and what I believe to be the best 50 in the meta currently. But let's just get straight into it. First of all, the leader, of course, just an exceptionally powerful effect. The effect just being able to cycle cards just makes your consistency so high in this deck, and it's not just the leader that's strong, but of course the cards that are within it. So I'm just going to kind of breeze through the staple cards in this deck. Of course, we have the Gorose. Now you do want to have these cards in English because, especially as we know, European is the strongest language. So let's first start with the Saturn. Of course, Saturn is just a very powerful consistency piece within the deck. Not only does it help you find your other Gorose, it helps lead into the Tenkasu Gorose combo. While it isn't necessarily stronger than the next card that we're going to talk about, which is Top Man Warcury, it is just one of the best cards to play in the early game for the consistency, even if Top Man Warcury is also a blocker. Now Warcury is a card that you sometimes play on 8 to 9 dong alongside other things, but it's not necessarily something that you're very eager to play in the early game. But because it is a 4 cost that can be played very cheap, it is something that you'll find yourself playing early game from time to time if you don't have Saturn. Especially after the Tenkasu Gorose, it's just an exceptionally powerful blocker. The next card is Mars. Mars is also a blocker but can KO one of the opponent's characters, making it very crucial against some of these aggro matchups, especially into matchups like Rayleigh, although we don't see it too much recently. You want to get this card down early on to just mitigate the opponent's damage as best as possible to survive until you get to that Tenkasu Gorose turn. Another very strong board removal tool that this deck has is Nasuro. Nasuro being able to have rush and also reducing opponent's power makes it so that you can actually take out some of the opponent's characters that cost 6 or higher, just making it very good within this deck. Finally, to round out the Gorose, we have the 7 cost Peter. Now Peter is just a very good card. Not only is it a 2k, but also after you play down the Tenkasu Gorose, you just get an explosive amount of damage on the board. That's sure to take down most decks within this game. And of course, as we've been talking about, to round out all of this, we have the Tenkasu Gorose themselves to play out all of these powerful cards. For searchers, as we discussed how important consistency is, we are running the maximum. We have Charlia at 4, as well as the 5 Elders are at your service. Again, having this card in English is going to increase your odds of actually hitting the search. Now from here it can start to get tricky, but as someone who has played about 24 games of this deck, I can tell you with confidence the best ratio of some of these counter events. First of all, of course, we have Radical Beam, just a solid 4k counter within the EMA deck. We also have a plus 3k event, which is just very solid and searchable off of Saturn, which is going to be very relevant in the later turns. And we also have Radical Beam 2 Electric Boogaloo in OP14 as well, which nullifies the opponent's characters so that you can take them out easier or get over blockers on later turns, while also just having 4000 power as counter. As for 2Ks alongside Peter, we have 2 Shiraoshi and actually 4 Subble, and I'll talk about this decision very soon, but still I think that this ratio of 10 counter events and 10 2K counters is very nice within this deck with all the changes that have come in OP14. Next, a common question when talking about deck building for EMA is which blocker do you actually want to run? Should you run a blocker? Do you want to run Charlos, which is much better in the mirror, or do you want to run Vivi, which is much better in the ace matchup? Well, I've thought about my answer to this long and hard after playing about 42 games of this deck, and I decided that I should just run both of them. Running this at 7, unfortunately, I would prefer to run 8, but just due to space in the deck, I have to run Vivi at 3, making a total of 7 low-cost blockers. Makes it so that this deck is very, very tanky and really focuses on finishing out the game with these Tenkasu Gorose. Effectively, your curve is just play 1 or 2 of these 5 Elders each turn while filling out your dome with counter events or these blockers. But there's another card that's actually very good, and finally I'm going to mention why we have Subble within this deck, and that is of course because I'm now running the 4 cost Rebecca. Now the 4 cost Rebecca, if you have a reduced cost, which is going to be very relevant if you have the Marijao stage. If you have the Marijao stage on the board, then all of your Elders are reduced in cost by 1, so therefore the Saturn as well as Warcury are actually 3 cost. Not only this, but if you have 15 cards or more in your trash, then you can actually have Subble at 3 cost as well. Meaning that if you were to play this 4 cost Rebecca, then you can just take out this Subble or the Saturn / Warcury out of your trash and play it straight onto the board. Very, very powerful and very strong on these later turns to swarm the board with blockers and really good attackers. Speaking of this 1 cost stage though, especially in the mirror, what's the counter to this 1 cost stage? Yes, you have Radical Beam to be able to get rid of the opponent's 7 cost stage should they play that, but if they play down the 1 cost stage, you really don't have an answer to that. And I have actually been looking through the deck list after playing about 62 games of this deck, found an answer, and that is Tempest Kick. Not the one that you're used to, but the one from OP03. This card allows you to KO one of the opponent's 3 cost or less stages, meaning that if the opponent doesn't play out the 7 cost stage, then they're screwed. But if they play out the 1 cost stage, they're also screwed. So just due to space within this deck, I have it at 2, unfortunately. But if you can draw into it, then I think it's an exceptionally powerful card, and one that I think that people should be running more. Other than that, I'm just running some tech cards as well. I'm running 5 cost Subble at 1 copy just in the mirror to make sure that my board doesn't get KO'd by the opponent's effect. This is really powerful into Lucci or Teach, which are historically very difficult matchups. I run 1 Stussy because I really want to brick whenever I can. I know this as someone who has about 84 games on this deck. And, oh sorry, I forgot to talk about the other stage. Yes, we have the Marijao stage, but of course we have the Empty Throne as well. This is just an extremely powerful powerful card within this deck, and I actually have only seen people run this card at 1 copy, but I think that it's worth running at 4 just because in the mirror, for example, if you were to trigger this card out, it can be really devastating. And so just for that high roll potential, because you can also get rid of it with your leader effect, although you do want to start the game with Money Draw, if you do manage to trigger this out, then you can be playing your 10 Kasukorose for 3 dong, and that's just really, really powerful in this deck and lets you just put up a bunch of blockers and characters on the board, also leave a bunch of counter events, and just make it really hard for you to actually take back the board. So I personally prefer this card at 4, but I can see going down to like maybe 3 depending on the space within this deck because it is a bit tight. Sorry, this just in from Ima themselves. Saturn is officially dead and has been replaced with Garling. So that's going to be our combo as well. Thankfully, Garling, though, also has the 5 Elders trait, so you can still play this out with the 10 Kasukorose as normal. So this shouldn't actually hurt the deck that much, but we have been banned in live time. Finally, to round this deck out, I believe we have 46 cards right now. There are 4 more cards that go into this deck, and that is, of course, going to be Ima.